Okay, I haven't done one of these in a little bit, but I've decided that I kind of want to do a sort of analysis video for my Sandbox Mun Landing world record. I know it's been like 2 months. Yeah, 2 months. Almost exactly, actually. Since I got it. But I don't know. The thought only crossed my mind now. So yeah. Alright. Mute that. Yeah, notice that. That's what happens a lot of the time. I should probably turn on volume actually. Well, turn it down. Yeah. Okay. Also turn that down. Okay. Should be better. Yeah, so you can hear me like spam clicking the EVA button. That's just so I can hopefully click it on at the earliest possible time. Because generally there's only like not even a second for the Kerbal to actually get out when I'm doing these runs. Probably like half a second at most. Also, one thing you'll notice, and that's going to come up later in the actual run itself, that I didn't use time warp, not time warp, physics warp. I didn't use it after going on EVA, which is kind of dumb. I don't know why I didn't try and use physics warp, because, you know, going at 4 times speed is faster. Like, it's pretty much always going to be faster, so I don't know what I was doing, but yeah, that's definitely a time save. One thing, I have no idea how I got this so fast. And also, it's incredibly lucky that this run was as fast as it is. Because it would have been a lot easier for me to get like 22 or 23. But no, I somehow managed to get 21. What the fuck? Anyway, getting off topic. Okay, so I'm going to try and explain the rocket design here. So, actually it might be a little bit better for when I zoom in. Yeah, so you can see there, it's the lightest crew cabin in the stock game. There is no crew cabin that is lighter than it. I've experimented with using one of the like EVA chairs. I don't remember what they're called, but KSP runners or just people who play KSP in general hopefully know what I mean. I've experimented with using that and a probe core, because combined they're both a lot lighter than the lander can. But for some reason, the game sometimes just doesn't like it and will make the Kerbal overheat. But sometimes it's totally fine, so it's just really inconsistent and weird and kind of annoying. But if I can get it to work consistently, then that is definitely a time save. Another thing, decouplers, it's specifically the taller ones, I guess. Specifically the taller radial decouplers, because there needs to be... Oh, wow. I was gonna say, because there needs to be, like, room for the Kerbal to get out, but... No, I decouple them. I don't know. For some reason, I get the crash landing glitch more consistently if I decouple the boosters instead of keeping them on. I have no idea why. But it's just a thing, I guess. Another thing, the 4 twin bore boosters. Yes, it would be faster for me to use more. Definitely, absolutely. You can get to the moon faster if you use, 6 times symmetry or 8 symmetry or 8-way symmetry. Yes, you can absolutely get to a higher top speed. You can accelerate to top speed faster. All that stuff. But the thing is, if you're going too fast... What's a good way of explaining it? Basically, time warp can only slow you down to 1 times time warp so fast on its own. Because you'll notice I'm not manually messing with time warp at all after setting it up to 10,000 times time warp. You'll notice that I don't mess with it at all afterwards. So it does that all automatically. It slows it down to 1 times time warp automatically, because that's what the game used to do. It doesn't do that anymore. But yeah, it can only automatically slow you down with no kind of input from the user at all. It can only slow you down so fast. So if your ship is traveling fast enough, or in a direct enough line, or if it's like close enough to perpendicular to the surface, or a combination of both, the game will literally not have enough time for it to slow you down to 1 times time warp, which is required for the Kerbal to get out, which is required for them to survive. Because otherwise it's kind of just a 100% chance of death. Yeah. So more boosters, definitely faster, but the issue is most of the time you go too fast. So you explode before the game can even do anything to slow you down. So I didn't know that at the time when making this. I just happened to choose 4 times and 4 times. I just happened to choose 4-way symmetry, and 4-way symmetry just happens to be the best, I guess. Although I haven't experimented with 5 boosters. Because 5-way symmetry isn't a thing, but I could put an extra booster at the bottom of the craft. I could do that. I haven't experimented with it. I should probably do that sometime. But anyway, yeah, so all that's important. And I chose the twin bore boosters specifically because I don't know why, but they burn all their fuel the fastest. Like the Vector burns its fuel way faster, like way, way, way faster. But the issue is, I don't know, I just cannot get enough Delta V if I use Vector engines, and I don't know why. So excluding Vector engines, twin bore is kind of the best for getting up to speed in the fastest way possible. So yeah. Oh, actually, before I continue, the reason why I did this, why I moved the camera to be facing this way, is it reduces lag even more than what I was doing for like my 28 or my 24, which is just zooming out a shit ton. And it's also really convenient because, well, it makes it a lot easier to time. It makes it like way easier to get the final time. Which, considering how optimized this speedrun is now, is very important. Like I'm not gonna be able to do like another, large jump of like 3 to 4 seconds. I'm not gonna be able to do that. Like this category is very optimized now. So finding, the most extreme lag reduction methods possible is important. And this ended up being faster. Because, well, it reduces lag more. It's also important because my laptop just sucks. Like, it's not good. So yeah, I think I've covered everything I need to at the beginning of the run. I change that to universal time so I can know exactly when I'm supposed to launch, because you might notice that until you launch, the actual vessel time doesn't change at all, but universal time does. And because I have to launch at like a very specific time. Because again, if my angle is too steep, if my angle towards the ground is too steep, the game doesn't have enough time to slow me down to 1 times time warp. So I need to have a decently steep angle to the ground. But I also need to just not miss the moon. So I need to launch at like a very specific kind of window of time, which is really difficult to just kind of, have a feel for. I really don't think I could, get a feel for that. That'd be kind of dumb. So yeah, that's why I switched to universal time. And then I don't switch to it. I increase time warp to 4 times because, well, it's the fastest way of moving in atmosphere. That's kind of that should be kind of a given. Like, yeah, it's faster by like a lot. You're literally moving 4 times as fast. So like, why would you not? There's me launching. And then for this, I was looking for a very specific visual cue to start lowering time warp. Because I press the actual hotkeys for time warp, because I use trackpad, and even with mouse it's really hard to, you know, go up there, click that, you know, spam click it, and then go over to EVA, do all that. It's still pretty hard. But basically, I'm trying to waste as little time as possible. Because if I start lowering time warp at, you know, exactly 70 kilometers, by the time I'm at 1 times time warp and can go up to 10,000 times time warp, I will have wasted some time. Because it takes time for the game to lower down to 1 times time warp. Even if I, you know, spam press comma. So I have to lower it. I have to start lowering time warp while still just barely in atmosphere, so that by the time I get down to 1 times time warp, I have just exited the atmosphere. And that visual cue I look at is just around when the altimeter hits 65 kilometers. Just around that is when I start to lower time warp, which we'll see in a moment. Yeah, just around when that hits, like, you know, 65, 64 kilometers, that's when I start lowering it down. We do that and start increasing time warp. The reason why I didn't use 100,000 times time warp, because that would obviously be faster, is because there's just not enough distance between Kerbin and the moon. It's hard to explain, but because the game takes time to slow time warp down on its own, it ends up taking too long for 100,000 times time warp. So you literally just pass right through the moon. Literally, you pass through the moon. Because the game cannot slow you down fast enough. Within the short amount of time you have while going at 100,000 times time warp. If I could find, maybe I could try spam pressing comma or something. I don't know. Maybe there's some way of utilizing 100,000 times time warp. I'll have to experiment with it sometime. But as of now, 10,000 times time warp is the max you can go without literally passing through the moon. So then I do the same thing as I did at the beginning. I start spam clicking EVA to hopefully click it as early as possible. And I got really lucky there, because you'll notice when the Kerbal got out, go back, like, look at how close to the ground everything was. Like, literally, look at how close to the ground everything was. I got hella lucky. Like, that was, I'll say it again, that was very good luck. It was luck. That's basically what it was. I could have easily had to wait, you know, another second or two if the craft was heading towards much lower terrain. But it just so happened to end up near some patch of decently high up terrain. So basically right after the Kerbal got out, crashed into the moon. And this is the biggest time loss right here. This is definitely by far the biggest time loss right here. See how the Kerbal falls for like a second? Timing ends when the Kerbal touches the ground. And, if you look at something like Rafai's, 45-second former world record, the Kerbal hit the ground instantly. Instantly. After getting out. Well, not after getting out, but after the explosion. Instantly touched the ground. So timing would have instantly stopped. And if that happened here, this would have been like 20 seconds. Maybe 19 seconds. So that is by far the biggest time save. Another big time save? Using physics warp. Because even though that was a relatively short distance, it still would have been faster if I used physics warp. Because again, you are effectively going 4 times faster than you otherwise would be. So it would still have been faster if I used physics warp. So that, combined with hopefully not falling like that, would most likely save enough time for 19. Because here's the thing, I got like 21.5. I didn't get like a 21.9. I didn't get anything like that. I got like a mid 21. So realistically, I only need to save a little bit over 1.5 seconds instead of 2 seconds. It's just that this is timed to the full second. So it is just automatically rounded down. It might look like I have to save 2 seconds, but I really don't. Yeah, I think that works out. I was thinking, wait, did I accidentally be dumb? But no, I was not stupid. Then yeah, Kerbal hits the ground, and then the exact frame that timing ends is right when they hit the ground, because the Kerbal did not bounce, which means that once they hit the ground, they hit the ground, because bouncing doesn't count as landing. And since the Kerbal didn't bounce, the frame they touched the ground is the frame that timing ends. So, let's see if I can find it. Right there. You see how the Kerbal starts tilting a little bit? That's because they hit the ground. And since their feet haven't hit the ground yet, their feet continue to go down. So torque, so they start rotating. So that is the frame timing ends, and if I remember correctly, the final time was somewhere around 21.51, I think. So yeah, moon landing in 21 seconds. It's still the world record 2 months later. Definitely possible to beat. But pretty difficult, I think. At least for me, because my laptop sucks. But if you have even a slightly good laptop, then 19 seconds is literally free. So yeah, I think that should just about do it. honestly. I don't think there's anything else I need to cover. Yeah. I might make a tutorial for how to get like sub 30 at some point. I feel like that would be useful. Yeah, that should do it. That should do it for now. So, yeah.